Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Monday. It's May the 19th. This will be our chart lesson for today. Really good trading day. There's not a lot of entries in here, but the ones that are here are fairly decent setups. Some really nice moves on some of these trades, and again, most of the movement came early, and then we really haven't done much. And this is kind of a little repeat pattern here of kind of what we had here. We had the move up, and then we kind of got stuck in this stuff and then went higher. And then you see we had the move up here, and we're kind of stuck in this stuff, and now they're trying, prices are trying to move higher again. So this is a nice two-legged correction here. You can see leg one and then leg two, which was a lot further down, but it's still a two-legged correction. And now we're trying to work higher. I show a break of my trend channel and a move to a new high, double top, a lower low, and I really thought we'd work lower from here, and we may still do it, but you can't go short in here because you're getting short at the lows of, the move down and all those matching lows. So uh, just remember that it's not a good place to be going short there. Let's talk about the trade that I saw, and then we can work from there. But the first trade I saw when I came in 7 o'clock, we were kind of working down into this right here. Again, you don't want to be going short. That's two legs up, but that's really just one. You really could look at that as one move. I do see a shorter term trend, and then it's hard to say if you really got a close outside of it right there. Um, because that closed right on it, and maybe that one closed outside, but you could just as easily swing that line over just a little. You still end up getting a close out and then two legs down and a move up. But I think it was more along those lines right there. And if you copy that and move it over, it does fit pretty good right there. So, and then you get your two legs down. But again, by the time you get a good setup to go short, you really don't ever get a good setup to go short here. And it's really kind of a pullback to test this breakout area here. We tested it once and we tested it twice. But what I like about it is you got the move down. This trend line's clearly coming down. You get the break, and then you get a little two-legged correction. Notice this high here, pull back, tries to go higher, pull back, and it bounces right there. You don't really have this trend line necessarily in place, although you might have drawn it here and originally looked at it like that. And I'm not going to argue that that's not necessarily correct, but I was playing it as of this being the trend line and with a median line in here. But regardless, you get a failed, notice the, first entry short, pull back into the second entry short, plus two legs back to the EMA. I do believe that you probably want to enter this with um, a limit order, wait for prices to break above that bar, drop a limit order in there, or maybe even wait on to break above this one. But if I remember correctly, I don't know if you'd have got filled then. I think it took on off right there. And the reason being is they trapped everybody short. And I noticed one trader, he sent me his chart. I'm not going to take the time to put that chart up, but he had a trend line like this coming across right here. And that might have looked valid after you got these couple of touches, but there's no setup to go short there. But he actually went short right here. And there's no way to really get that line there and get any confirmation. You might have drawn that right there and then drug it up. But that's the first touch, and you're not really getting any confirmation. You get a second touch there, but not a good setup, and then you get another touch there, but it goes on through. So I don't think you could take that short. After a move that strongly up, um, it still worked, but I just think it's way too aggressive. This is looking like a range kind of day so far, and I would be looking for prices to maybe make a trap right here and go higher, which that's kind of what happened. And they really took off out of here, and then you get a little pullback and a second entry long right there. Um, Again, you don't know that. I would have measured this leg right here, and I would be looking for a measured leg right up here, which that gets you near the previous high. So I like that setup. Okay, sorry, I had an interruption there. But I would have been looking for a measured move. I'd be looking for prices to test this. So you might have considered it's a little more aggressive, but um, aggressive traders probably going to take that. You got a little bit of some matching highs across here. That's a breakout pullback long. You don't quite have a measured move. You're not testing the highs yet. And at this point, it really did look like, hey, we may get we may end up in a trading range today. But, we didn't have a break of this trend line right down through here yet. So you really couldn't go short yet. At least you had to be real particular about shorts. But notice this new high, we broke higher, we failed, we pulled back. We get a second entry long here. Notice this low, first entry, pull back. There's a second entry long. It fails, it turns down. That's very bearish. It's right across these highs. Some aggressive traders are probably going to take that. I'm going to call it aggressive, though. I'm not going to mark it red because there was no break of this trend line yet. If this was right, you might have seen it like that. So that adds a little more credence to it if you were looking at it like that. But that scares me more because it's so much more closer to the trend line. But I still think some aggressive traders are going to take that, and especially with the trap. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that one as an aggressive trade. And because notice you got this line working down, and that's the first break. So there's a good chance that we're going to get a retest of the low, and probably at least test this low, and we're probably going to come back to the trend line. And so for that reason, I felt like it was worth taking if you saw it that way. You didn't want to take this really so much based off the fact that this might be a trading range day yet, because you don't have a lot of price action to verify this line yet. You got another one here, but by that time you're bouncing off the trend line again off those first two swings. So that changes everything. But now you got the break of this little channel, the move to a new low, and it bounces. This is not a very good setup bar on my chart. I saw a couple other charts. It looked better on some, but notice that this is kind of a little trading range, and we broke out the top, failed. We had kind of an equal break out the bottom that fails. I'd be using a limit order here. If you use a stop, I think it still worked, and then it comes back, and then it gives you a second entry long right off that trend line again. So I really liked it then. I think you could go long with a stop right there, but you might want to think about a limit order, but I don't think it came back. I think it took on off. I like that trade. Then you're correcting here, and you don't get another setup really till here. Again, I don't think you want to go short right here. Notice all those matching lows. That's congestion right there, matching highs. What's usually going to happen here? Prices are going to break out, and they're going to snap back. And you would think they would snap back far faster than that, but the shorts were trying to take this thing lower here. Excuse me, the shorts were trying to take this thing lower here, and they couldn't take it. But once you start to get these dojis, you can't go short right in there, especially with everything closing right above that high right there. Notice how this was the high, and it's kind of acting as the high still. You might have moved it up a tick. It changes it a little bit. It makes everything closing below, but it doesn't matter. Even if you're looking at it as everything closing below, you can see prices are trying to work higher. So just sit tight. Don't go short yet. The trend is still up. I saw this as the first break, so I'm definitely not going short, but I'm going to be real particular about going long here. But then guess what? You get this new low. You get a first entry, a pullback, a second entry. There's no setup there for a second entry short. You got to go short below really a bullish bar there. And so don't go short. And then now you get the failed second entry short. And I think it was okay to go long above that bar. But if you didn't, when that bar formed, and just put you a stop right there or wait on it to break and put a limit order and then look at it go. You know you're going to work to a new high if you're seeing this as the range. And I believe this to be it. I really do. And so I really like that setup. And again, it took off real quickly. Uh, this one set up better than this one did. But now you've gotten through the resistance and it's coming back and it's really kind of acting as support across there is what's happening. That's what I see as the kind of the top area, and it's kind of acting as support, and then it takes off. And there's, this is congestion, so you definitely don't want to be counter trend trading out of it. Wait for the trap of something, and this is a short trap, and then you go along, and that's what happens. People, are looking for shorts all the way up through here, and sometimes, like right here, they get lucky and it works, and even right here, it would have worked. You could have gotten short, and even right here, you could have gotten short. I like this one better than this one because now you've got some reason for prices to be working lower, but there's no setup in anywhere from here to here to go short. I could see traders trying to take that, but when this thing got hung up right here and couldn't go lower, I'd have taken my tick or two and I'd have got out, or even at break even if I had to, and get out, because odds are you're going to make that new high after the trend line, the trend line break. And you can see most of your short-term trends. There it is working down your break, and you move to a new low and it reverses. And you're moving up, you get the break, it moves to a new high and it reverses. Now you could have, even if you didn't draw this yet, draw it off here and drag it down and you see it fits. But now you got your two swings, you just draw it, and you really could have drug this one up and then it bounces right off that. So, just grab it, draw it right here off those two swings, drag it up, and it turns down right there. Prices are probably working to the other side of the channel. It's not worth risking a short without a trap or some kind of setup, and there is a long trap here in a reversal, and it's aggressive still, but it works. And then you get the failed break lower out of that little area. You got two legs down, you got a retest, it bounces right off that trend line, goes higher, pulls back, tests it again, and then goes higher. And we really were struggling to get through that 1876, 77 area right there. And we finally got through it, and now we're struggling to go much higher. So, but it's late in the afternoon now. I don't see a whole lot more probably happening. But there, just a couple of these trades here were really big movers. And so I was done pretty early, fairly early this morning. And I was just kind of watching it to see kind of what happened the rest of the day. But again, you got your trend line working down. You've really got two legs down here, that new high, pull back first entry, pull back second entry. It's not a really good setup there though. And that's the first break of that little trend line or trend channel working down. And you've already got your break of your main channel and a new high. So I thought it was too risky to go long right there. And you might have been looking for the short that's set up there. And I do kind of like that one, but it's aggressive. But we were kind of looking for a reversal here, and I still wouldn't be surprised if we don't work back down from here. But you can't ignore the fact that we might go higher from here. We've had enough correction there after the trend line break and the new high. The correction started around just a little after 10 o'clock, and you can see it was almost noon before it was over. And so you've met your criteria of an hour's worth of correction there, a two-legged correction. So we could work higher from here. So just be real careful about going short until you get a confirmed trend line in the other way. And we don't have that yet. So, and when I say confirmed trend line, this was a confirmed trend line when you got your first two swings and it bounced the third time. That's what kind of confirms it. So right here you had two swings, but you never had a confirmation till down here, and you can't be going short down here. So I hope that's clear, because people they hear me say that, but they don't quite understand what it means. Confirmed trend line means you have three or more touches of it, and and it's still holding prices. No closes outside it. So keep that in mind. This is more of a trading range than anything. So you might consider trading it like a trading range. But the bias is up, and the EMA is just finally starting to go flat, and it could easily turn right back up from here. So be real careful about your shorts until you get something for sure working in the other direction. And that's pretty much it. Not a lot of entries today, but some very clear, very good entries. This was, like I said, this was a nice trap. You had a nice double bounce off the trend line here to confirm it and take it further. And of course, it didn't go very far, but prices were really struggling to get above this resistance here. So, but anyway, I'm going to wrap it up for today. We'll be back to do it tomorrow. Rather quick today. There's just not a lot of entries, but I hope you had a good trading day, and we'll be back and we'll do it again next time. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and I'm out of here.